So welcome back everybody. Today's video I'm going to be installing a small wood stove in my wood shop. I've got a building over here with a nice dedicated room that's closed in. It's going to be a good area to have kind of a designated woodworking area so I'm not transferring tools back and forth to more of my fabrication or welding shop. Problem is I don't like to work in there very much because it's so cold. So I've got a stove we purchased off Craigslist, and using just stuff I have around here, I'm going to try to cobble this together and make it work. This is not a real detailed wood stove installation video. If you'd like to see one of those, I've actually got one uploaded of how to properly do it for a home. I'll put that, you can click on this video right here and go right over to that and get it more detailed. But this is kind of just a quick and dirty using things that we have. Mrs. Wranglerstar and I have made the decision at the beginning of the year we're going to try to go as long as we can without spending any money on anything that's not absolutely required. And what that's going to mean is gasoline and food, and not extravagant food or expensive food, but real basic stuff. Eating oatmeal, not buying juices and things, but drinking water instead, to really get serious about conserving, putting our money towards paying off the remainder of our debt, and just to be able to enjoy the freedom that comes from not owing everyone everything. So we're looking forward to doing that. So there will be things that come up, necessities. You know, if a water heater goes out or a major appliance breaks down, we'll obviously have to break that rule. But that means no eating out. You know, we're not going to be in a restaurant, not going to see the inside of a restaurant unless we're working there. It's going to be packing lunches and really cutting it down to the bone and getting things put into perspective. So what I'm doing today is going to be installing the wood stove with that mentality, just seeing what I can scrounge together and build the chimney system and get that put in and hopefully get that done today. So I'll bring you along with how I decided to do it, and that's it. Let's get started. So fortunately I've got this nice stainless steel, several sections of the stainless steel pipe. It's way bigger than I need. The outlet coming out of the chimneys, or the stove, is only 4-inch. This is, what is this? This is 8-inch. So not ideal, but it is really good, high quality pipe. Nice thing about this is when I put this on the outside, I only have to do it once. I'll never have to replace this. It won't rot out. But I will have to figure out a way to reduce this down to the 4-inch to fit the stove. So I have this nice T. One other problem is I don't have a cap for the bottom. So as you're looking at this, this will make the penetration through the wall. This is towards the stove. This is outside, and then this section here will run up for the chimney. I need to build myself a cap, something to close this off so I get a good draft going. What I have scrounged around and found today is I've cut a section out of a heavy-duty 55-gallon drum I got from my neighbor. This is probably property of U.S. Army. I hope they don't mind I use it. But it's twice as thick as a normal 55-gallon barrel, and I'm going to use the plasma torch, and I'll cut a ring out of here, and then we'll fashion a cap, and then we'll start installing the chimney. So the tool that you guys have seen me use, I'll be using to cut the steel today, is what they call a plasma torch. And that's what this little box is that you see. And this is a really nice way for cutting because you don't have a lot of consumables. What consumables mean is, for example, using a cutting torch, you have oxygen and acetylene, and those are used up pretty rapidly. And you have to keep going back and getting the bottles refilled. And also, that cutting torch produces a tremendous amount of heat, and there's a high probability of getting burned and catching on fire, and it's not a very fun tool to use. This takes a lot of the bad aspects out of cutting metal because it produces very little heat, and there aren't really any consumables. It simply uses electricity and air, and then you do have to replace the tips occasionally on the cutting torch itself, but it's not that expensive, and they last a long time. So that's what you'll see me using today to get started on the cap for the chimney. So I'll lay my T on the steel, and I'll put it towards the edge, not right in the center, which is kind of, people have a tendency to do that, because this is a nice piece of sheet metal steel that I can use for other projects. So I want to leave as much as I can for other things. When marking steel, you can use a Sharpie, but what works best are these small, it's kind of a little, like a wax pencil. I don't even know what you call it. You can get them at welding supply stores, but they write on just about anything. And so I'm going to trace around here, and I'm going to overcut this a bit because I want to have enough room. This being this to overhang just a bit, so I can make some little brackets, come up and drill through here and fasten it, because it's kind of a difficult thing to fasten to. So now that I've got this marked, I want to hang this over the bench so I can cut it. I don't want to cut through there. Whatever is on the back side of that torch that's metallic, that torch will cut right through it. So be sure not to cut our workbench. And for welding and fabrication, these vice grip style clamps with the big openings are just ideal because they allow you to get over some larger material. And they're quick and easy to use, and they hold very securely. Once we do that, then if we need a ground for the plasma torch, now we can go ahead and spark up and cut out our template. Using a plasma torch is actually quite simple. Anyone can do it. You simply have a trigger here, and once you have your ground set, you bring it close to the material and then pull the trigger, and you'll hear a rush of air. Then the spark will start, or the arc will start, and then it'll cut. Now, as I said before, it doesn't produce a lot of heat, and you don't need a heavy welding hood to use one. You can simply use some shaded or dark glasses, which are sufficient to protect your eyes from the arc. When you're a homesteader, you want to be really careful about throwing things away. This is a little bin that I keep, that whenever I come across any type of a bracket or just unusual things that I could use for fastening, just all different projects, I dip into this thing all the time. And so I'm coming in here to find some little L brackets that I can use to connect that cap onto the chimney. I can't tell you how many times this little box has saved me a lot of trips to the hardware store. So we've got our cap cut here, and it's over. You know, it's overcut there about 3/4 of an inch or so. And the reason I did that is now I can use these brackets. Will fasten this down, and use some self-tapping screws, and these will hold this in place. And these will work out good because they're galvanized, and they'll last a little bit longer. This isn't going to last forever because it's not stainless steel, but it'll last for many years. It's pretty thick, so it would be sufficient for a shop wood stove. So now I got 2 of the brackets installed, and we'll install the third one here. And the stainless steel can be exceedingly hard, so we'll need to pre-drill it so our screw will bite. But any quality drill bit usually go through it. I'll just use these little galvanized hex head screws. And then we'll drill through the steel plate. So we've got our brackets installed and the bottom plate, everything's finished, so now we're ready to take this over to the stove and cut the penetration through the wall and start getting the chimney put together. So I'm going to need a way to secure the chimney pipe to the barn itself, keep it from tilting off once it goes through, and I found a partial clamp which looks like it was made for chimney parts. Unfortunately, half of it is missing. So fortunately, I have this nice heavy steel piece remaining from this barrel, so we'll lay this out here and make a template. And then we can make another one. So this bracket's going to show, and I'm going to look at it every time I'm in the garden working. And if it doesn't look good, if it doesn't match the other one, reasonably square edges, it's going to bother me because those type of things do. So one thing you can do to help cutting a straight line, whether you're using a torch or a plasma cutter, is use something heavy. I've got this piece of railroad iron, and I'll use that as a guide. So I'll line that up there, and then I'll run my torch right along here, and I'll get a nice straight cut that way. So as you can see here, using the railroad tie as a guide, really makes a difference. I'm not good enough to cut freehand these nice square edges like that, but here we have just almost an exact facsimile of the piece that was missing. So we'll take this over to the vise and put the bends on it, drill the holes in it, and then we'll have a completed bracket. A bench vise is one of the very first pieces of equipment that you should be getting if you're setting up a shop. It's a good place to start. It's probably where I would start. It's the perfect item that something you can find at garage sales. Just be careful to stay away from anything that's Chinese made. Look for anything that's made Germany, the UK, Switzerland. Of course, American vices are good, but stay away from the Chinese or Mexican vices. So I'll just put this in here, and then I'll just match the bend, and then we'll flip it over and do the other side, and just using the piece that we had as a template. So there we have salvaged that bracket, and out of what? Right there, out of that one piece of steel, that top of that barrel drum, we were able to make two pieces: the cap for the chimney, and then the bracket replacement for the chimney bracket. Most people would have just thrown that thing away, but just keep in mind, steel or sheet metal or anything like that, if you're on a homestead, you need to save that stuff, because you'll inevitably you'll be able to use it in projects, and it's really helpful. So now we'll just transfer our marks here. So now we'll just transfer our marks here. Now, before you drill a hole in anything, you need to use what they call a center punch. And a center punch is basically a punch that's got kind of a sharpened tip on it. There are also these type, which are spring-loaded, which kind of will make their own divot for smaller work. The reason why is, as you start to drill a hole, the drill bit cannot find a place to start, and it will wander all over the place, and you won't be able to be very accurate. So, putting this up against something that's really immovable, like a piece of railroad tie here that can be used as an anvil, or even the back of your bench vise, or an anvil itself, you can make this punch. There you can see the dent in the metal. That'll give us a good, easy place to start with our drill bit. So this piece, requiring a relatively small hole, we don't need to drill what we call a pilot hole. If you're using a big bit, something where you have to put a big, maybe 3/8 or 5/8 or 3/4, start getting into bigger stuff, you would need to start with a smaller bit, and a pilot hole. So use a small bit and then gradually step up the sizes until you get to the diameter that you need. It'll save you a lot of time and aggravation, but this is relatively small, so we'll just drill it the size we want it. So I got to looking at this, and the way these brackets are going to mount are like this, and I have made a mistake. You see that, all that corrosion, that was the inside of the barrel? I'm going to be looking at that for the rest of my life, and I don't like that. This barrel is galvanized, has been sitting outside probably since the Second World War, so it gives you an idea of how good that coating is. So what I'm going to do is rebend that so that the galvanized exterior finish comes out and it's a much better match, and it won't be so obvious and look so shabby. I should have thought of that before. Alright, now that looks better. Won't have to look at that for the rest of my life. So I've just found a couple little machine screw to match up the one that was on the existing bracket. It's galvanized, so that will hold up. I'll put that on. You know, one point I want to point out to you guys, especially you young guys, because I've worked with so many of you, you've never been taught to work. And what I mean by that is by anticipating what you're going to need for the job. Now, I'm not trying to beat up on you. It's not your fault because you haven't been taught. You know, I don't know how to perform open heart surgery because I have not been taught that. It doesn't mean that I'm stupid. But what I'm talking about is while you're working, you know, think about this. Think about how you're going to be installing this bracket, and you're going to need to tighten all these things up. Now is the time to start collecting your tools. You know, I'm going to think, okay, I'm going to need a flat-bladed screwdriver, and I'm going to need a 3/8 box-end wrench to tighten these up. That way you're not wasting time. You're not going back and forth, and it makes the job frustrating, and it takes a lot of the joy out of it. So, you know, as I'm working, I'm thinking about what I'm going to be needing, and I'm collecting those things, and make sure you have a bucket or a toolbox that you're throwing those things into so you have them when you need them. Makes your job easier. Especially if you're working with a journeyman or someone who knows their business. I've had guys, a lot of young guys, especially working in carpentry, where I'm working, you know, building stairs or framing a wall, doing whatever, and they're watching me, they're acting as a helper, but they're not paying attention to what I'm going to need next. One thing my dad really taught me was to watch what he's doing and anticipate what he's going to need. If I can see that he's cutting and he's going to be needing a hammer or a drill gun, you know, I'm anticipating the next tool that he needs. I'm going to have it there waiting for him. That will set you guys apart from almost everyone else, because kids have just not been taught that. So watch, anticipate, learn what the guy is doing that you're working with, and make sure you have it there and ready to hand it to him. He'll be amazed, because it's just something that is so uncommon anymore with young folks.